Hello and welcome to Real Cheating Story. I'm so sorry, Charlie. Well, that wasn't too bad. I figured hearing I had 6 months to live would make me feel a lot worse, but after getting the news, I was okay. Honestly, this news didn't hurt as much as a root canal. Bet you wouldn't have taken it this well. Go on, admit it, you'd have been crying and screaming like a big baby. I took it like a man. I even went back to work after leaving Bob's office. Oh, you know Bob, the doctor I play golf with. He's the one who just handed me my death sentence. So, I went in for a routine physical and some insurance, and after getting all the test results, he said it was some kind of nuclear melanoma affecting my bilateral clavicle. I'm no doctor, so all I got out of it was 6 months to a year at best. Hey, do you want to grab a greasy cheeseburger with me? No use in watching my diet now, right? Might as well order some onion rings. That all happened a couple of weeks ago, and a lot has transpired since then. You probably want me to tell you about it. No? Then why the hell are we sitting at this bar talking? Ah, screw it, I'm going to tell the story anyway. I had that cheeseburger, went back to work, and the day was much like any other, paperwork and phone calls, sorting out someone else's problems. I went to see Bob to find out my fate, walked out of his office feeling lost, drove around aimlessly trying to remember where my office was, then went back to get my pants, did more paperwork, and finally went home to my loving wife, Mary. I was just about to rain on her parade. She was going to be devastated. Up until that point, I had taken the news pretty well, but now I stood at the front door, wondering how to tell her I was going to die. How do you tell someone you've loved for over half your life that you're facing this? Mary is a no-nonsense kind of woman, always has been. She walked right up to me and told me what she wanted. That's how we got together. I was dating one of Mary's friends back then, and she cornered me at a party and said we were going to get married. It seemed far-fetched at the time, but that's what happened over 20 years ago. No girl had ever chased after me before. It surprised me. I never thought of myself as a real catch, but Mary did. As I flipped the lever on the door, I decided to do it Mary's way. I wouldn't beat around the bush. I walked into the house, and to my surprise, the room was filled with family and friends, a big birthday party complete with balloons and cake for my 50th. My face showed the shock. This was the last thing I wanted right now. How was I supposed to tell Mary the first was a dead man walking? I could see my parents there, having flown halfway across the country to be with me, and my kids were there too. I wasn't ready to tell everyone at once. I had to swallow all the words I prepared for Mary and save it for later. I should have expected this. It was my 50th birthday, after all. Mary loved throwing parties. I think we even celebrated a Yugoslavian 4th of July once. Mary's concern was evident. She asked, "What's wrong, baby? You look like someone stole your puppy." I shrugged. "It's nothing. I just wasn't expecting all these people." She smiled knowingly. "Oh, I know what it is. You were hoping for another surprise in the bedroom. Don't worry, you can have that too once everyone leaves." Yeah, like that was going to happen tonight. Mary was in her element, tending to our guests like a proper hostess. Once in a while, I caught her glancing over at me, smiling contentedly. That simple act told me Mary loved me just the same after all these years. The end of the party couldn't come soon enough for me, but it finally did. When I locked up for the night and went to bed, Mary was waiting for me in my new birthday present, a stunning long black gown. She had gained about 20 pounds since we got married, but it all seemed to go to the right places. We usually spent the night celebrating after one of her parties, but tonight felt different. I couldn't shake the feeling of disappointment, and it weighed heavily on me. After Mary fell asleep, I got up to grab some aspirin. When I checked the medicine cabinet, it was empty. I remembered that Mary often kept something for headaches in her purse, so I wandered down to the kitchen and began searching. I was amazed at how women managed to find things in their bags. I emptied her purse onto the table, and there they were, thankfully, some headache pills. But as I gathered them up, I noticed something unexpected on the table: empty condom packets, 12 of them. What the hell? We had never used condoms. Mary had been on the pill, and I'd undergone a procedure after our youngest was born. My heart sank as I realized the implications. How could this happen? I needed to calm the chaos in my mind, so I poured a large glass of whiskey. I was overwhelmed with a jumble of thoughts, questioning everything. It felt like my world had shattered, leaving me with a deep sense of betrayal. Hadn't I always been a good husband? The next morning, I woke up with a severe hangover. Mary had covered me with a blanket at some point, which was a small comfort. I needed more aspirin but didn't want to dig through her purse again. I found some pills in the bathroom, but it turned out to be a mistake to take laxatives on a hangover. I spent hours regretting that decision. Despite my physical discomfort, the feelings of betrayal remained fresh. Never once in our 26 years of marriage had I doubted her loyalty. How could she do this to me? It felt cruel, especially since I was already struggling with my health. I hadn't shared that with her yet. Maybe I wouldn't make it my big surprise. We could wake up one morning, and I wouldn't be there anymore. You know what I mean. It was clear she had her secret, and I had mine. I spent the rest of the day promising myself I'd never drink again for the remainder of my life. I've never been the type to seek revenge, but the idea began to appeal to me. There were many things I had never done that suddenly seemed tempting. I had never jumped from an airplane, it felt too risky. I had never owned a sports car, also risky and expensive. But the ultimate risk that came to mind was to have an affair. It hadn't crossed my mind before, but now I saw some potential benefits. Mary needed to feel the hurt she had caused me. The pain was overwhelming. I decided to give her something to remember fondly when she was older, a husband who had strayed a little on the side. I didn't have much time left, but I was going to make the most of it. Let's see who feels regret now. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I had always been the cautious one, considering the consequences of every action. Not anymore. The worst-case scenario? I wouldn't be here anymore. That was going to happen eventually, so why worry? Who could I have an affair with? My secretary? No, she was a nice person with a family. I didn't want to disrupt anyone else's life, just Mary's and mine. Who did I know that was single? Which of them would bother Mary the most? Her sister? Yeah, that had potential. Karen was recently divorced. She might be looking for a little excitement. Who else? Her mother? Now that would definitely stir things up. Mary would be furious. Ellen had been single for quite a while. What did I have to lose? Ellen was in good shape. It couldn't be that bad, right? This could be easy. She might even be interested. So, the plan was to pursue Mary's mom. I was getting my life back on track, albeit a short track. How should I act at home? Should I distance myself from Mary or play it cool? Playing it cool seemed like the best approach. Pretend everything is fine, no worries. A few nights later, I made up for my previous lack of effort in bed. Mary thought it was all for her, but I was really just honing my skills for Ellen. I didn't want to let her down. I was sitting in my recliner, thinking about how to approach Ellen, when Mary came out of the kitchen. She looked at me, and instead of her usual smile, she gave me a sad look and shook her head. It was another sign that something was off. I could see it in her eyes. My opportunity with Ellen came the next weekend when Mary was at her sister's, and Ellen needed a ride to bingo. It was now or never. I thought life was too short not to take chances. I met her in the driveway, helped her into the car, and closed the door. As soon as I got into the driver's seat, I felt a rush of boldness. Just feeling a bit adventurous, I said. Do you think it's wise to drive around like that? she asked, raising an eyebrow. Have you ever wanted to be a little daring? I teased. She responded playfully, and before I knew it, we were both caught up in the moment. I was shocked when I caught a glimpse of Ellen. I swerved and nearly hit the back of a garbage truck. I could already imagine the headlines: "Man causes accident with mother-in-law." Charlie, you're quite amusing, and I'm flattered by the offer, but why would you think I'd be interested in a middle-aged man? I've had enough of that already, she laughed. I realized this wasn't such a good idea. Oh, Charlie, you're so sweet, but I have all the excitement I need waiting for me. We're not really going to bingo. I need a ride to a hotel on Main Street. I meet with a couple of younger gentlemen a few times a week. A couple? As in two? I asked, surprised. Yes, dear. A couple. I was a faithful wife until Harry passed, but I quickly realized I still had needs to fulfill. But, Ellen, at the same time? Charlie, don't be ridiculous. If you had offered this to me years ago, I might have taken you up on it, but I've gotten attached to my younger companions. I'm not sure you could keep up with the pace, so to speak. The drive to the hotel was silent. Would Mary react this way when I was gone? She already seemed to be. I dropped Ellen off, and she turned to kiss me on the cheek. If only you'd been a little sooner, Charlie. Then she was off to meet her companions. My ego took a hit. The only way I could feel worse was if I were facing some terminal illness. I thought about what kind of car I wanted: a Ferrari. Too flashy. A Corvette? Nah, too American. A Porsche? Too small. I decided to put the affair on hold. It was time to focus on something else. Did you ever try to find a car like that? I'd probably be dead before I ever got to drive it. Why did everything seem to go wrong lately? I went for a routine physical, and the doctor told me I was in bad shape. My wife of 26 years had become someone completely different. I couldn't even charm a woman twice my age. Plan B: pursue Mary's sister, Karen. After my last attempt at seduction, I felt a glimmer of hope. I casually asked Mary about Karen, who wasn't seeing anyone. If the women in that family had Ellen's energy, Karen would surely appreciate some attention after being on her own for a while. I decided to take a direct approach. I had a key to her apartment, waited until I knew she was asleep, and quietly snuck in. I felt like a stealthy intruder, carefully removing my clothes before entering her bedroom. I could make out the outline of her sleeping form, covered only by a sheet. Perfect. I thought about slipping in quietly and wrapping my arms around her, but as I crept to her bed, trying not to wake her, my plan took an unexpected turn. The sheet flew back, and I heard her exclaim, "What the hell? Charlie, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind?" she asked. In that moment, I realized why she hadn't been seeing any men. There were 3 of us in bed, and I was the only guy. I curled up, feeling overwhelmed, and tears streamed down my face. She held me like a child, while her partner comforted me with gentle strokes and soft kisses on my forehead. I found myself reflecting on the situation. How many guys could honestly say they had shared a bed with 2 women? I had that unique experience, but it wasn't as glamorous as it might sound. My neck ached, and I could feel old fears creeping back, angry and insistent. Karen, always patient, finally asked, "Charlie, what's going on? This isn't like you." I hesitated, unsure how to explain. "It's hard to put into words," I replied. "Just tell me," she insisted. "It's not like you're going to die." "Actually, that's exactly it," I said. The weight of my diagnosis pressed heavily on me. She hugged me tightly, and I pushed her away, feeling the familiar sting of pity. "Why don't I feel any better?" "Mary must be worried sick about you," she said, her expression a mix of concern and disbelief. "She doesn't know, and I'm not going to tell her," I said defiantly. That's insane. She deserves to know, Karen gasped. No, she doesn't. She gave up that right when she cheated on me, I replied, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. Charlie, you're not thinking clearly, she said. Mary loves you, she wouldn't do that. Maybe it's time I confront her, I suggested. At least then I'll find some peace. When I got home, Mary was waiting by the door, and I braced myself for a confrontation. Where were you, Charlie? You had me worried sick. I had some things to take care of, I said coldly. We need to talk. You've been acting strangely, she insisted. I interrupted. You talked to Bob? That's just great. What did he say? That I'm dying, I admitted, hoping she'd catch on. Oh God, no, her face drained of color, and she fainted. With her unconscious, I felt a wave of resignation wash over me. I might as well go practice my swing. I wasn't up for a full game, so I grabbed my driver from the back of my car. What I really wanted was to take out some frustrations in Bob's office. Luckily for him, he wasn't at work, but not so lucky for me when the police eventually found me at the golf range. I was eyeing a new driver because my old one didn't hold up well against a locked door. Did you know the police won't let you take sports equipment into your holding cell after an arrest? Neither did I. It seemed ridiculous. What did they think I was going to do, swing at someone? They granted me one phone call, so I called for a pizza. Just before it arrived, Mary showed up, and Bob walked in right behind her, which really annoyed me. One pizza is barely enough for two. The guard opened my cell door and said I was free to go. Go where? I thought. Bob jumped in first. Charlie, listen carefully. I know you're upset, but I have great news. You're not going to die, at least, not anytime soon. There was a glitch at the lab with the computer. You're okay. His enthusiasm fell flat as I processed the news. Now I had to face the reality of Mary possibly cheating on me for another 30 years. Isn't that great news, honey? Mary asked. Yeah, but is my pizza here yet? Didn't you hear? You're okay, she beamed. Yeah, I heard, but it changes nothing. My life is still a mess. Now I just get to live longer and experience it day by day, I grumbled. Bob looked at Mary. Has he always talked like this, or is this new? Mary ignored him and shook me by the shoulders. Charlie, snap out of it. Why are you acting like this? Mary, what did I do to make you cheat on me? Was I that bad of a husband? Bob, we need to get him to a doctor, he's losing it. That may be true, but it doesn't explain the wrappers I found in your purse, I shot back. Those were for balloons at your birthday party. Wait, you didn't think. Why didn't you just ask me, she replied, sadness in her eyes. I recalled my party. Bob had paid the pizza guy. There were balloons, right? No, those were... This was not good. Now that I was going to live, I felt like I was really in trouble. Mary would be furious when she found out about her family. I thought to myself, oh Lord, take me now. I'd been a fool to trust anyone, first my doctor, then my own judgment. What would Mary do in this situation? She'd come to me, expecting honesty. I braced myself for the truth. When we got home, I sat her down in my easy chair. I went to the kitchen and poured her a generous glass of Chardonnay. She'd probably need it for my confession. Before I could start, Mary said, Charlie, you don't need to say anything. You're the most important person in my life, and I love you no matter what. You've been under so much stress. It's amazing that you held it together as well as you did, considering the pressure you put on yourself. The only thing I'm sorry about is that you didn't come to me and let me in. It hurts, Charlie. Please believe me, Mary, I tried. I really tried. The house was full of people, I never had the opportunity. Then when I found the wrappers, Mary, stop me. Charlie, I know you did. Now I remember how miserable you were at your own birthday party. I'm so sorry, Charlie. How can I ever make that up to you? I was so selfish. Mary, for God's sake, stop interrupting. I have to get this off my chest before I have a coronary. She did it again, she interrupted me. Which is it, Charlie? Are you going to tell me about Mom or Karen? I took Mary's cup and swallowed its contents. You already know. Do you want me to pack my things now, or will the morning be soon enough? I stammered. Mary reared back and slapped my face. Look, Charlie, I've taken a boatload of crap from you this week, and I've forgiven you for all of it. If you don't start acting like the man I married again, well, you don't want to know what I'll do. You slapped me? I said, surprised. Yes, I did, and I'll do it again if you ever push me away like that again. Charlie, I think of you with every breath I take. When you told me you were dying the way you did, I felt like I was dying too. I fully understand now what you did, not that I like it, but I understand. I'm so ashamed of myself. I don't deserve, I started, but she interrupted my apology again. This was starting to frustrate me. Yes, you do, sweetie, and you deserve a whole lot more. Now take me to bed, or do you want me to call Mom? You know she told me to tell you that you have a cute tool. I think so too, I said, kissing her forehead. Cute? I'll show her what's cute. A man's strength isn't cute, it's a weapon. I picked Mary up and carried her toward the garage. We make love in the bedroom, but let's change things up a bit. We ended up in the garage, and I wanted to show her that my strength wasn't just a joke. We even ended up in the tool shed next, just to make a point about her mother's comment. We messed up the flower garden next. That was for the humiliation her sister put me through. As Mary tried to pull a geranium free, I asked, well, have you had enough, or is it still cute? Aren't you still mad at Bob? Maybe we could go to the attic next, that would sure teach him a lesson. She said, throwing her arms around my neck, which turned out to be a bad idea after the ceiling caved, and we ended up in the bedroom anyway. But we sure taught Bob a thing or two, and we were planning to do it some more if Mary could get me excited again. So you might ask me why I'm sitting in this bar. Well, Karen asked me to stand up for her at her wedding this weekend. I don't know whether I'm the best man or the maid of honor, but I'm trying to get enough courage to get my legs ready, just in case Karen is the bride. I wouldn't want to make a mockery out of the dress they've chosen. Now that's what I'm talking about, I exclaimed as I walked out of my new doctor's office. I had good reason to celebrate. I was going to live, I tell you. That may sound silly to you, but just 1 year ago, I thought I had less than 6 months left. Yeah, it was all some mix-up at the lab. I can't even remember what awful disease they told me I had, but whatever it was, it turned out to be wrong. I didn't have it, and I didn't die. After that, I fired Bob, my so-called doctor. I still play golf with him, though. His handicap is 6. My game has improved, and I'm a 6 as well. Funny how knowing you're not going to die improves your attitude. My new doctor, Kathy, doesn't golf, but she told me I should live a long life. She says I'm as healthy as can be. I have absolutely no idea how healthy that is, but she's a doctor, so you'd think they'd know. It was weird at first, going to a woman doctor, but the more I thought about it, the more sense it made. I wouldn't consider myself uncomfortable with it, but wouldn't you rather have a woman's hands helping you when you turn your head and cough? I know what my answer is. I had a smile on my face when I got home that night. You couldn't have removed it with a wire brush. My life was so good these days. After last year's chaos, I seemed to be charmed. I had been promoted at work a few months ago. Mary, my wife, loved me, and I was healthy. Life was perfect. Charlie, we have to talk, Mary said, handing me 4 aspirin and a big cup of Jack Daniels. This wasn't my usual before-dinner drink. Something was going on. What's wrong, Mary? I talked to Dr. Kathy this afternoon. She called right before you got home, Mary said, her expression worried. You've got to be kidding me. Not again. You just can't trust a doctor who doesn't golf. My hand was shaking as I raised that huge cup to my lips. Here's to you, Charlie, and all of us who are about to die again, I toasted to myself. Charlie, you've got to get a grip on yourself. I have some news, and I'm not sure you're going to like it. Well, how many times does a guy have to hear that he's dying before it kills him? Mary always did have a knack for the understated. Those voices in my head came rushing back. Ha! You see? You're a loser. You're a dead man, Charlie. Blah blah. Eat my shorts. The third voice was already feeling the effects of the alcohol. I handed Mary my cup for a refill. No, Charlie, just calm down. We need to discuss this rationally. Rationally? She can't be serious. We're not discussing buying new drapes rationally. Poor Charlie is being dealt a tough hand in the prime of his life, and she wants to be rational? Listen to me, Charlie. I am pregnant. Now what the hell was she talking about? I thought I was facing death, and she was joking around about having a baby. Stop kidding around, Mary. How long? I'd say about 8 weeks, she said. Screw me. Last time they gave me 6 months. We have so much to do. We have to get prepared, I said, resigning myself to my fate. Now, Charlie, there's plenty of time. Just relax, she said. Mary was taking the news of my situation very calmly. Relax? We've got a million loose ends to tie up. We have to plan the funeral, for heaven's sake. Mary, how can you tell me to relax? Charlie, listen to me. I'm pregnant. That wasn't funny the first time you told me. This is serious. The doctor called and said I'd be gone in 8 weeks, and you continue to joke about being pregnant. Charlie, read my lips. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. You're not going to die, she said slowly. You mean I'm not? No, you goof. You're not dying. I thought, my God, this couldn't be happening again. Man, am I relieved I'm not facing that fate. Wait, did you say you were pregnant? Oh, Mary, how could you do this to me? I said as I started to cry. It's not what you think, Charlie, she said, trying to console me. That's what they all say, I sniffed. After last year when you... Damn you, Charlie. I did not cheat on you. Not then and certainly not now, Mary said angrily. But the vasectomy, how? Why, Mary? Why? I sobbed. Dr. Kathy told me that it's possible that your operation, well, it's all pretty technical, but the main thing is that it's your baby. Charlie, don't you think I know who or what has been inside of me? I'm surprised you'd even consider that. I didn't have a response to her statement. I wanted to trust her, I really did. I didn't know what to do or say. I had been on top of the world just a few short minutes ago. Now look at me, the weight of the world felt like it had come crashing down. I cried, and when I wasn't crying, I drank. I passed out shortly after 9 that evening, lost in a fog when the lights came on, blindingly bright. A big camera was focused on my confused face, and someone was poking a microphone at me. Welcome, Charlie. Welcome to Who's the Daddy? You're our next contestant. I'm Link Barker, and I'll be your host tonight, he said with a huge smile. Who is this guy? Where the hell am I? Thanks, wink, I think. Okay, Charlie, let's get right to the game. Game? What game? Haha, that's how it works, Charlie. Only the wife really knows how it's played. But how can I possibly win? That's a good question, Charlie. Let's ask your lovely wife, Mary. Welcome, Mary. It's great to have you here tonight. It's great to be here, wink, Mary replied with a playful grin. Meet me in my dressing room later. Now, please tell Charlie how he can win, Wink said, clearly intrigued by Mary. Well, he can't. He's a born loser, Mary laughed. Mary, I sighed, feeling overwhelmed. You look a little pale, Charlie. Are you okay? No, I'm not. I don't want to play this stupid game anymore. Too bad, Charlie. Mary is already expecting, so you have to play now. Mary, would you please turn over the first picture? Could the daddy be your neighbor, Mark? He asked. No, please no. I cried. Mary, please reveal the next picture. Who is that? My high school boyfriend, she replied. Show us the last picture, Mary. Could it be you, Charlie? Are you the daddy? We'll find out after these commercial messages. I woke up covered in sweat, my head pounding. I was in a tub of hot water when Mary walked in. I was trying to find some relief, but things weren't going well. Okay, Charlie, I just got off the phone with Dr. Kathy. We're both going down there, and we're not leaving until you're convinced that you're the father of our baby, Mary said firmly. But what if? Well, then, Charlie, you better get ready to spend a lot of time in church, because if this baby isn't yours, you'll be raising the next child of God, she replied flatly. So, I bet you can imagine how we were going to prove the biological truth. Yep, a sperm test. I'd done my share of those before when I had the vasectomy, but how are we going to extract a sample under these circumstances? On the way to the doctor, we passed a church, and I wondered if that was an option. Nah, we weren't even Catholic, we were Episcopalian. In the waiting room, I read a pamphlet about erectile dysfunction when they called my name. Mary got up and started to follow. Where are you going? I asked. With you. I'm not about to leave your side until we settle this, she said, pushing me through the door. The nurse led us to an exam room and told us the doctor would be with us shortly. I remember the last time someone went into an exam room with me. I was 7 and had the measles. The wait wasn't too long, but it sure felt like it. Mary sat on a small stool, tapping her foot, clearly amused by my discomfort. The doctor asked me to remove my clothes, something I'd done in front of Mary countless times, but with 2 women there, I was hesitant. Have any of you had a woman examine you with your wife watching? It's a bit awkward. She checked me over and then instructed me to get on the table. I need to check a few things, she said, and as she began her examination, I couldn't help but feel like I was in an uncomfortable situation. Mommy! I wanted to scream. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out what this had to do with Mary being pregnant. We had never even considered that kind of intimacy. My mood wasn't any better when she handed me that small cup. We need a sample, Charlie, Dr. Kathy said. Okay, and how do you propose we get that? I asked, pointing to the cup. The usual method would be, she began. I nodded. Doesn't one usually require some motivation for that? I see your predicament, Charlie. Mary, do you have any ideas? Well, I suppose I could try, Mary said, looking determined. Okay then, I'll leave you 2 alone. Please bring the sample when you're finished. I know how anxious you are for the results, the doctor said. Mary has never before failed to spark my interest in all our years together. She removed her blouse, and I felt a nervous flutter. When her bra came off, I noticed she was trying, but doubts crept in. Each time she touched me, the thought that she might have been with another man crossed my mind. When she realized the problem was me, she left the room in tears. I didn't intend for that to happen. I really had no control over myself. Dr. Kathy burst into the room and started questioning me. "What did you do to Mary, Charlie?" I explained exactly what happened. She nodded and left the room. A few seconds later, she returned carrying a tray with a vial and a long needle. "What is that, and what do you plan to do with it?" I asked, already knowing the answer and not liking it. "Don't worry, this won't hurt a bit," she said. I shot back, "Well, if it doesn't hurt, let me stick it in you and see for myself." She laughed, and I exclaimed, "Ouch, that hurt." "I'm sorry, Charlie, but I had to do it," she replied. I recalled my grandmother saying something about a watched pot, and I realized this must have been what she meant. I was busy counting the tiles on the ceiling when the doctor stood up and handed me a cup. "Let's get this show on the road, Charlie," she said and walked out of the room. I had been so focused on counting 184 tiles, by the way, that I didn't notice how tense I had become. This was shaping up to be one of the least satisfying yet most important moments of my life. I stared down into the plastic cup filled with a milky substance and willed it to move. In moments of pressure, my thoughts tend to get jumbled. At that moment, the weight of the situation reached its peak. My past and future depended on the scientific facts contained within that cup. Clarity of thought is usually gained in quiet moments or through prayer, but I had my epiphany right there. I had my realization while sitting on a stainless steel table in a small exam room. Trust, it's what life ultimately comes down to. It's a simple word, not too hard to grasp, but the true meaning of trust is much more complex. It's deeper than the deepest ocean and more distant than the farthest star. For me to say I trusted Mary was easy, but did I really? If I did, why was I here, questioning everything? Mary had told me I was the father of her unborn child. If I trusted her, why did I need proof? Mary was my life, the mother of my children. We had shared everything, the good and the bad. She had never questioned any of my mistakes, she simply believed in my love for her. Mary knew what trust was. She had never lied to me, yet doubts lingered. On the flip side, there was medical science. Had it ever let me down? Yes, many times, including last year when I was told I had only 6 months to live. And why was my appendix scar on the left when everyone else's is on the right? Ever wonder why a doctor practices medicine? They practice because they're still learning. Was I really going to believe that a doctor who had performed surgery on me was more trustworthy than Mary? Was I going to think that Mary was lying? After all, she had suggested this test. If she had something to hide, she wouldn't have come here today. As I dressed, the weight of my doubts hit hard. Mary had come to support me, putting aside the lack of trust one had shown her. I had accused her of being unfaithful, ready to cast her as the villain, and yet she was still here for me. What did that say about the love we had shared for over 25 years? My love for Mary felt questionable. I could say the words, but did I truly mean them? Suddenly, everything became clear. I set the sample cup on the counter and left the room, making my way to Dr. Kathy's office. Mary's eyes were red from crying. The doctor looked up without expression. I spoke, wondering if the words I had inside could ever heal the damage I had done. "Come on, honey, let's go home." "But what about the test?" Mary asked. "It's not important." "I believe you, and that's all that matters," I said, reaching for her hand. 7 months later, our baby was born, a healthy boy, 6 pounds 13 ounces of energy, with 10 toes, 10 fingers, 2 ears, and 1 nose, just like me. Mary breezed right through the birth, even at her age. Call me an idiot or a fool, that's something that has been said before by better men and women than you. Would you or could you blindly take a leap of faith and trust? I did, and I would do it again. It may not be in your nature to take another's words so easily, but ask yourself, was being right worth what you may have lost? Think hard, the answer isn't as simple as it may seem. To wrap this all up, don't any of you feel sorry for old Charlie? I don't, well, except for the fact that I have to pay to be verified. Did you know that the insurance company says only one to a customer? I think that's pretty narrow-minded, don't you? Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.